Hi, my name's Abigail McGougan and this is video 10 for practical instrument processing. So first of all, I have safely removed my kit from theatre by transporting it on a trolley. I need to assess to make sure that there are no sharps left on my kit. This is very important for safety. So first of all, I will get a sharps disposal container and then I will find my Olsen Hagar needle drivers. It's integral that when we're removing a scalpel blade that we use the needle drivers and not a regular set of hemostats. They will not grip effectively. I want to hold the blade away from me just to make sure that if anything goes wrong, I don't hurt myself. Take the needle drivers and slowly remove the tip. Pop the scalpel blade directly into the sharps. I also need to remove the needle suture off the kit. So I make sure to select that with the needle driver as well, not with my hands, and place it directly into the sharps. From there, I've already removed all of my organic waste and any body parts and placed them into the clinical waste bin. So I will now sort the kit to be processed. So I want to make sure that all of my instruments do go into the cleaning solution and get processed, even if they've not been used. And I need to pay a special attention to any multi-part pieces, such as this pull suction tip here. I need to remove the end piece to ensure that both pieces are separate so that they can effectively be cleaned into the solution. I then make sure that all of my other instruments have their ratchets opened. And then I need to select my instrument cleaner. So I have chosen Medizyme, which is an enzymatic cleaner. It's very important that we dilute this correctly, and this will end up being 30 mils into 5 liters of water. I have a nice big tub for my instruments that I will fill with the Medizyme and warm water. And I have that separate so that I can rinse off any of the organic matter of my instruments before I put them into the solution. It's really important that when we are creating Medizyme that we not only make sure that it's the right dilution, but we have the correct temperature of the water. So we have to make sure that the water is warm and that it's by manufacturer's recommendations over 25 degrees Celsius, but under 50. Obviously we don't want to burn ourselves as well, so making sure that it's warm and not really hot. It's not only going to help with our safety, but it makes sure that the enzymatic function of the product is not compromised. If it's too hot or too cold, the enzymes will not work to break down the biological matter as we want them to. So I will make that solution now by taking my 1 liter jug and using warm water to fill to 5 liters. This is the last one to be 5. Alright, so that's 5 liters of warm water. I then take 30 mils of Medizyme solution and add that to the water. Lovely. Now, before I go ahead and soak the instruments, I want to make sure that we've rinsed off any organic matter. So it's integral that we do this rinse away from the solution that we have just created. So if there's not enough space in your sink, just take care to remove the Medizyme before going ahead. So we'll take each of our instruments, I'm going to rinse them and then place them in to soak in my Medizyme. Here is a set of Metz & Balm scissors. Making sure that they're open, a set of Cryle hemostats, set of Adson's rat tooth faucet, and my pull suction bit. I'll now finish the rest of the kit and leave them to soak for a minimum of 2 minutes, but if there's been heavy soiling, I'll leave them for 5 minutes instead. Hi, my name's Abigail McGougan. This is video 10 for the Instrument Processing Practical for the CPVN Surgical Nursing course. So I have just left my instruments to soak for 2 minutes in the Metazyme solution, and now I'm going to go ahead with cleaning the instruments. So a few things that we need to note with Metazyme: the manufacturer does recommend using nitrile gloves as personal protective equipment, and they do also recommend something to shield your eyes in case of splashback of any biological matter or the product itself. So firstly, I'm going to take an autoclavable scrub brush. It's very important that this is the only thing that is cleaning the instruments. We don't want to use a contaminated brush that could therefore compromise the cleanliness of our kit. So I will show you the process. All right, so first of all, if I'm taking a set of my Cryle hemostats, it's very important that we not only clean the teeth, but the box joint here and the ratchets as well. We need to clean it underneath the water here to ensure that we're not getting any splashback into our face. It's a risk of contamination of biological hazards, and we want to use long sweeping motions away from the body. So I will clean them underneath the water, ensuring to get right up into those teeth, making sure that there's no blood or any organic matter left. Now, Metazyme is a free rinsing product, but that does not mean it does not need to be rinsed. It means that it is easily rinsed. So once I am happy and have inspected that there is no organic matter left on my instrument, I can take some distilled water and rinse the product off. It's important to use distilled water as there's lots of minerals in tap water, which will leave deposits on the instruments and cause spotting for the instrument. To lay to dry, I open the handle right back out and lay out flat on a nice clean towel that's not been used for anything else prior. I then have my Adson's rat tooth forceps here. I want to make sure that I get right into the little V here where the tissue has been handled, where it's most likely to harbour any organic matter. And again, clean underneath the water level with long motions away, ensuring that I get every aspect of the instrument. It's important to not cause lots of splashback. And then take your instrument, rinse with distilled water to ensure there's no Metazyme left on the product, and lay out to dry on our towel. I then have my pull suction tip unit here, which is multi-part and it has a lumen. So it's important that we treat these pieces separately, not together, because biological matter will harbour on the inside here. So again, underneath the water, long strokes away from us, getting into all the little nooks and crannies. Now with lumen instruments, it's very important that we use a cylindrical tube brush that down the holes to make sure that we don't have any buildup inside of them. However, the clinic that I'm currently in does not have one of these. It apparently is broken and they have one on order for next week. So I'm unable to demonstrate that for you today, but I would take the brush and I would insert it in through the hole underneath the water and move back and forth to remove any buildup of debris inside of that tubing or that lumen. Again, rinse with distilled water, lay out to dry. Here is the second piece to my pull suction tip, and the same concept would apply. I need to ensure that I'm getting right into all of these holes here underneath the waterline with my scrubbing brush. On all aspects. And I would also need to use the tube scrubbing brush down through the center of this one here. This is an integral part and cannot be missed when processing this instrument. rinse with distilled water and place over to dry. Now lastly, I have my scissors. These are my Metzenbaum scissors. It's very important that we don't blunt the blades of these, so we don't want to be going against the blade. We want to be going down the length and the opposite way to where the blade surface is, paying extra caution to our joint here, or our screw hinge. So long motions away from the body, paying extra caution to the screw hinge. Rinse with distilled water and open up wide to lean out to dry. Now it's very important that we do leave our instruments out to dry or use a lint-free cloth to dry them. Anything that goes wet into the autoclave will come out wet and therefore isn't sterile. So they do need to be effectively dried. I personally prefer to use a lint-free cloth to dry these instruments. So I'll remove my wet gloves, and I have a lint-free cloth here that's been already pre-sterilized, so I can be sure that there's no nasties hanging out on this. And then take our lint-free cloth and I ensure that every aspect of my instrument is dry. While I'm doing so, I'm assessing for any damage and making sure that they are nice and clean. So for our hemostats here, our cryols, I'm ensuring that not only all of my teeth in here are clean, but that there are no teeth missing and that they do line up effectively when they are closed. I also need to be checking to make sure that the ratchet is suitable on this, and I do that by clicking the ratchet closed, opening my palm of my hands and giving it a good whack against the palm of my hand. If the ratchet does not open, then that is okay to go ahead. If it does open, it means it's sprung and it needs to be replaced. For my adze and rat tooths, I'm going to again give them a good clean and ensure that they're nice and clean. I want to ensure that my rat tooth actually does combine here and line up effectively. If it is wonky or doesn't meet in the middle, then they will need to be replaced. I'm also looking out for any signs of corrosion, any sort of rust or any pitting on all of these instruments, and they're all looking really nice and shiny so far. If I did notice any corrosion, I would need to be performing an eraser test to check to see if it's rust or if it is staining. And perhaps adding in a stain remover such as sort of Scalex. Now for my Metzenbaum scissors, again I'm checking to see if they are smooth to open and close, that there is no corrosion, but I also do need to check to see if my scissors are sharp. So the best way to do that is to get some TheraBand here. I've got some specifically for testing our instruments. If we bring this toward, the scissors should cut through this very, very smoothly without snagging at all. So if we demonstrate that, that looks like taking a snip and there being no catch on the scissors, just like so. Just to show you again, to snip with the scissors, not catching at all. Beautiful. Now for my multi-part lumen, this one will take longer to dry, so I'll often give it a manual dry with my lint-free cloth, but to ensure that the inside is dry as well, I do leave these out in a dust-free area, in a low foot traffic area, to ensure that they are dried all the way through the hollow lumen. And I need to make sure that both of my pieces have been effectively dried. We want to take extra caution to look for any corrosion or rust on the threading pieces of these instruments, because if they have been processed without being taken apart, then things can harbor in there and cause much faster sort of corrosion for these instruments. Okay, once I've assessed all of the functionality of my pieces, including how they open and close, I can go ahead to do an instrument lubrication spray, especially focusing in on the ratchets and the box joints to make sure that they move really nicely, but it will also help create a protective layer to make sure that sort of rust and things don't happen as quickly. It's extremely important to use a steam penetrable one and one that is not a silicone based oil. We use Sterilit here in clinic and make sure that we remove any excess oil before autoclaving them. Hi, my name's Abigail McGougan. This is video 10 for the instrument processing practical for the CPVN surgical nursing certificate. So I have now dried all of my kit and I need to ensure that it's complete before we go ahead and pack it. In this clinic, we don't use instrument tape as it harbors bacteria. So instead we have a packing kit guide here. I'll be packing the cat spay kit. We have a picture representing all of the instruments that are required, along with a checklist down the bottom, including how many of them that there are. So we need to move through our kit and make sure that we have each individual instrument present and tick them off the list. So I can see that we have a size 3 scalpel handle. I will tick off. Olsen-Hager needle drivers. Also making sure that our ratchets are unclipped before processing. That we have 2 backhouse towel clamps. We have plain thumb forceps. Plain Adson dressing forceps. Adson rat tooth forceps. And plain rat tooth forceps. We then have our Metz and Balm scissors, which we tested for sharpness. Two curved Cryle hemostats. 2 mosquito hemostats. Mayo scissors, which are also being tested for sharpness. And 2 Alice tissue forceps. The kit is complete and can now be processed.